if this was any other private citizen, they would build the jail on top of them. In other words, I'd like to see old Donnie wriggle his way out of this jam, Saagar. Famous last words.
I personally think he'll wriggle.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. You know, my response to though is the people who are inevitably going to be like, "Oh, this is." I'm like, listen. I mean, nobody forced him to take all this money from the Saudis. Personally, I lean towards Pac Rat. I just never have seen him able to pull off some sort of scheme of any intellect whatsoever, which this would still require. That doesn't preclude people who work for him, though, not being able to do so. So that's always important to put out there. But yeah, I mean, in general, incompetence is always the best theory whenever it comes to Trump.
Just complete that being said, cavalier disregard and thinking the rules don't apply to him.
And also what would always piss me off is whenever we would raise questions about Hunter Biden or about Hillary, people would be like, that's insane. I'm like, listen, she's the one who took money from the, yet Omani Sultan in order to go talk for pay-for-play meeting. It's not a conspiracy theory to say that happened. Same with Hunter.
Taking a lot. We don't know how much.
It's a lot of money.
A lot of money directly from the Saudis right now, just from the Live Golf tournament. Even
Plus
if you
Jared,
put everything.
Jared's
the Jared thing is
that's a lot.
Probably the grossest and fishiest, because there was reporting, we covered it here on this show, that, he's never done this type of investment fund before. He doesn't have any track record in the space. I mean, he's not known as some brilliant businessman. Remember that property he bought in New York that was like a disaster for him and his family, whatever. So the initial review board says no, citing exactly the things I just meant, inexperience and potential exposure to the Saudi government. And they just thought, this guy, he doesn't really know what he's doing, so why would we make this giant investment? It goes to the full board and headed by MBS, and then they, sort of override the judgment of the smaller review board and give him the funds. The original idea for this fund was that they were going to raise something like $7.5 billion. Yes. Well, he hasn't been able to get any other money. So it's basically, there's like maybe another $500 million that he got in, but it's basically just money directly from the Saudis.
Yeah.
That's, that's really gross. Even if it has nothing to do with these documents, that's really gross. But to your point, part of why it's such a problem is because then you do look at a situation like this and you're like, well, if there were nuclear secrets involved, you know who that's very interesting to? The Saudis.
Yeah, and you can
these
easily
connections are very clearly
You
demonstrated.
can preclude that by not taking money. So, that's always going to be a response. But just like, if you don't want to be at the top of these things, or if you don't want to be, investigated on these things, then don't take the cash, because that's an easy way in order to make sure that there's no pay for play.
Yeah.
Nobody buys anything for free. To the level of political influence, we'll see.
Yeah.
But look, they open themselves up to these own problems.
Yeah, but to me, the biggest question that remains in terms of the timeline thus far is why? I can totally understand, just get from the general Trump chaos how you ended up with classified materials at Mar-a-Lago. Why did you keep them? And your lawyers sign off saying you had given them all up. Like, why did you do that? That's the piece that to me is like, I don't know that makes sense. Maybe it's just still disorganization, laziness.
Yes.
Just thinking the rules don't apply. That probably is still the best explanation. But that's the piece that I'm like, I'm not sure that part really makes sense and adds up yet.
Yeah.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.